Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Agora Pulse Social Media Day live stream from the UK and Ireland, where it is appropriately raining today, but that is not going to deter us from basically celebrating a day which is totally about us, social media. So I'm Erin, social media and content manager from the UK and Ireland, and I'll be running through what we've been doing in the UK to spread the word, like not only about our tool, but also the importance of social media to businesses and organizations across the UK and Ireland. Now, I've been working in social media for like 6 years. I will not give away my age. I'm going to keep it like Mariah Carey when on Wikipedia she's like 48/49. You never truly know. But I've been working in social for around 6 years now, and that's been across a range of things. So, agency, higher education, and housing. And I've learned, especially within the UK and Ireland, that you can have the title social media manager, but it can mean wildly different things for people and organizations across the UK. And what's more, the role of a social media manager has evolved completely with new platforms and content and expansion of analytics. It has meant completely the kinds of things you did at the start of your career are completely different a few years down the line. It's really been a whirlwind of a industry to be in. And so when we were thinking about how we can best serve like the 35,000 social media managers that end up using Agorapulse every day, we were thinking about how dynamic the role is. And basically what we wanted to find out was what the world's biggest brands were doing with their social media, but also how the role had started to actually evolve for certain people. And which is why we started the Confessions of a Social Media Manager podcast, which is our sits brilliantly alongside Agency Accelerated, which you've heard about today. And it's an in-depth look into the big brands, who runs their social media, but also the people who have developed their careers, whether it's transitioning from traditional communications or people who have just straight up studied digital marketing at university and have launched into a social media role. All their approaches were super duper different. And the guests that we had were really amazing. So we've had the V&A Museum, Bravissimo, Innocent Drinks, Trini London, Canva. It was a real mix of people from across the globe, but also a very awesome understanding about how different industries approach social media. Some are super duper within, pay strategies. Some only even deal with organic. Some rely on user-generated content, which is out of this world. The podcasts are available to stream everywhere, and we do have a link right down below in our description. So please check it out, available everywhere. And during this live stream, we're going to be doing an exclusive showing of the exclusive video interview with the duo behind Social Media Tea. Now, if you work in social, you really should be following Social Media Tea. If you're not, please, why are you not doing that? It is a confessional social media account that takes anonymous confessions, has to be anonymous, from people working across digital marketing. And when I was talking to Alex and Alexa, Austin and Alexa, about how they started the account and why they did it, they really wanted to give a honest look about what it's like to work in digital marketing, because we know it is fast-paced, we learn so much, but sometimes it can be overwhelming. And they told me that they have, at that point when we talked to them a couple of months ago, 16,000 confessions, and they've only posted 350 of them. So they have got a lot of content coming through, and they also are really, really big on giving an honest voice to people who work in digital marketing, but also being accessible with your content as well. So go check out their account, and we'll be showing their interview soon. Now, we don't just do podcasts in the UK as well. We are, of course, data-driven. We're very data-driven. You have to be if you work in social. Everyone will tell you that. So what we've been wanting to do is find out exactly how people have been using Agorapulse over the past couple of years, and what has been working for them and what hasn't, and where the trends are emerging from the content that's being posted through Agorapulse. And so we went on a big deep dive and analyzed 1.4 million social media posts from social media managers that have been posting across UK and Ireland, across so many different sectors like government, agencies, freelancers, e-commerce, to figure out what they've been posting, how well it's been doing, but also what are the trends emerging from all these platforms. So we analyzed LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we came up with some interesting results. I'll give you a top headline now, just to get you interested. The most shared content across all platforms, no matter what, was photos. 65% of the content that people posted across all platforms included photos. The most engaging times to post on Twitter were 9 a.m., 4 p.m., and 11 p.m., which I'm not sure what says about the sort of like sleeping habits of the UK and Ireland. Clearly, we're insomniacs and want to get into arguments on Twitter at 11 p.m. Okay, but think about that when you're posting. We also found out that the perfect amount of hashtags to put on an Instagram post in the UK and Ireland is 15. No matter what Adam Mosery is saying about how many hashtags you need to put on there, we found that the post that included 15 hashtags had the best chance at engagement and reach. And then also a real interesting tidbit from the 2022 analysis of our data is that we found that LinkedIn Live has become way more engaging on LinkedIn live videos. So, and we do put across maybe why are LinkedIn prioritizing their live videos? Are they giving you more engagement from that? Those are just some of the highlights that we put in our report. And of course, our report is free, so you can check the description down below. It is a free download where you get all the insights from all our data, including trends, the kinds of hashtags you should be using in which sector as well, and also loads of different tips and ways to use Agorapulse to make your content as brilliant as possible and get it to most people and make it engaging as possible. Now, in this live stream, obviously, we're going to have a brilliant interview with Social Media Tea, which is probably the funniest interviews I've done. But also, we're going to be having a brilliant interview with Fluid Ideas, a award-winning digital marketing agency that's based in the north of England. It's very cool up there. It rains way more up there than it does down south, but that's by the by. And they talk about how they started using Agorapulse and how it really transformed their output, but also their clients' social media. So we're going to have that as well coming up with Ben from Fluid Ideas. So now that's enough from me, social media manager from the UK and Ireland. I'm going to show you now the interview we had from Confessions of a Social Media Manager with Social Media Tea. Enjoy. I'm going to be in the comments as well. So if you've got any insights and fun learnings, which is like what we like to say in social media, from the interview with Social Media, put them down below. I can also, reveal some exclusive BTS from the interview as well. And if you've got any ideas or questions or want to see anybody else on this podcast, please let us know. My LinkedIn direct messages are open. Anybody who wants to feature on the podcast and get their story out, you're more than welcome to. So thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the comments. Welcome to Confessions of a Social Media Manager with me, Erin from Agorapulse, and today I have with me Social Media Tea. Now, any listeners worth their salt in social media today should know who Social Media Tea are. They are the confessional Instagram and Twitter account that lets people working in social media and digital communications anonymously spill their secrets, frustrations, and experiences about their job. You'd think I'd be able to say it anonymously properly the first time around, but I didn't, but we're going to go for it anyway. Starting on Instagram in June 2020, the account quickly turned into an industry favorite, with it now having a combined follower rate of 32k. Reading it, you almost don't want to work in social, but that's kind of the point of it. The account is dedicated to highlighting the realities of working in the industry in the hopes that the people in the industry are better respected, better treated, and better paid for the work they do. Now, what people may not know about Social Media Tea is that it is the brainchild of two people. So I've got two people with me today on the podcast. That is Alex Heinrich and Austin Braun. Now, okay, buckle in. I'm going to give you a career history of both of them. Okay, we'll start with Alex. Alex has a long history of working in education comms. She started off as a junior graphic designer in the marketing department for City Colleges of Chicago in 2014, before transferring to their academic affairs department as a project coordinator a year later. 2 years after that, she went back to the marketing department where she managed their social media, video projects, and external advertising until June 2019. She then moved on to her current position as a social media manager at St. Petersburg College. Throughout that time, though, she's become a very strong advocate for accessibility best practices within social media, which isn't too surprising if you already come from the education sector, but I'm really excited to hear more about that when we talk to her. And we also have Austin. So Austin similarly started off in the educational comms space. He studied at media and communications at the University of Colorado Boulder. I hope I said that right. And then became their digital media strategist for the College of Engineering and Applied Science. After 3 years there, he moved on to his current role at Ascend Engineering, a drone technology company, which is very cool, in Chicago as a chief strategist and creative officer. He's really into like Gen Z social media, which I mean, aren't we all trying to figure that out? And loves to experiment with brand tone and persona in his work. Apparently, he realized early on that Alex was behind Social Media Tea and wanted to join in, and now they run the account together. Welcome, Austin and Alex.
Hi, having us.
Oh my God, I am privileged. I am honored to have you both because I've been following your account for so long, and as much as it is so relatable and makes me want to cry, I was just so interested to like have the people on there who deal with all those submissions all the time and have to filter through all of that. So I'm really excited for you two guys to spill your own tea and then also just tell us what it's like to manage such a huge meme account. But the first thing I want to know is something I had not found out yet, is how did you guys meet?
So we both work in higher education, what Austin previously did, and we were both part of this massive Facebook group for higher education social media professionals. It has like 10,000 people in it. So we kind of crossed paths in there. We're also really big fans of Sprout Social, so we crossed paths there. So it was really just like all of our different interests surrounding social media bringing us together. And then I started Social Media Tea, and maybe 2 weeks after it launched, I got an all caps message on Instagram from Austin. If this isn't you, I don't know who it is. And I was like, do not ruin my fun. So he knew right away, just based on my tone, that it was me. And I just brought him in to help manage some of the chaos with me.
It was a beautiful story because I had just, met Alexa online. I had seen how she had written, and I saw what the account's goal was, and I thought, oh my gosh, what a great idea. And then I thought to myself, wait a second, this sounds really familiar. And I was like, oh, it has to be Alex. And then boom, it was. And then that's where it all started.
This speaks to the strength of your guys' connection that you both immediately, well, Alex immediately, you were recognizable to Austin, and then Austin was like, I'm going to get in there, I'm going to help her with it.
Yeah. So it was just really funny.
What was the inciting instant for you to start this account then? Was there a day that you were just like, oh my fucking God, this job is going to kill me. I need to post about it. What was it?
I think it was just the repeated frustrations I was seeing from our peers, especially being in the very beginning of the pandemic, what a lot of us were dealing with. And there were days that I definitely cried just because it's not always easy being a social media manager, especially when you're dealing with crisis comms. And I was lying there one night and I was like, I should make like a post secret type account, but for social media managers, and then make it pretty. And that's what I did.
Make it pretty. No, I was talking to somebody about this earlier. The no one really understands the depth of how communications changed because of the pandemic. And I remember I took a crisis comms course just before it happened. And then I realized, oh my God, no, this is going to be our permanent mode for a while. And not everyone quite, in the job that I was in at the moment, not everyone quite cottoned on to the fact, no, you realize it's this crisis comms time for a very long time. And the changes and the adjustments for that were sort of extreme. And I'm not surprised with like what's going on with like the Great Resignation, that a lot of people realize that their job is not exactly what they wanted, or it wasn't giving them what they needed, and wasn't helping them in a way. So those frustrations coming out, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, we see a lot of that in the submissions that we get.
If someone had asked you both about working in social media, what would your first advice be to them?
Probably to have to work for leadership that actually understands what you do, which is asking for a lot. I am blessed to work for a college where my leadership, my management understands what I do, and they treat me like the expert. So that really helps me on a day-to-day basis and keeps me sane.
Yeah, and for me, I would echo what Alex just said, but also understand too that, like she said, it's sort of a big ask to have leadership that's like that. So on the flip side of the coin, if you're not in the boat that's able to have that, be ready to explain the value in a way that they can understand, and be ready to know that that's going to be an uphill battle.
How would somebody try and suss out, maybe so like they realize where they currently are kind of sucks, they're not enjoying it. What advice would you give them to suss out when it comes to interviews for new places where they want to work, how that leadership is going to be aligned with what they would want to do?
If they list the job title as we're looking for a social media rock star or a social media guru or a social media wizard, don't apply for those jobs. That's not a place that you want to go to. You want somewhere that actually gives you the real title of the position, because it's a real position. You're not the intern that gets a fun nickname. You're a marketing professional. So I cannot stand when jobs list stuff like that. Just give the title. It's fine if you jazz up the description and make it more creative, but the title should be the actual title.
100%. And when you go into an interview, understand that you're also interviewing them as well to figure out how they value your role. It's pretty easy to sometimes see if they'll be dismissive, or if they won't value it, or that sort of thing. So it's important to go in there and ask important questions like, what's the workflow going to be like? What autonomy do I have? How is it going to work with other counterparts? And understand that you got to go in there with a critical eye and think, okay, am I getting any red flags? And if so, keep searching.
Why is the position open in the first place?
Good question.
Did someone leave? Did they create a new position? Those are the kind of things that you want to know. I'm always curious why a position is open. What do they say about the previous person that held it? Oh, they found a better opportunity. What made the opportunity better?
And in addition to that as well, it's important to see their feeds. So if there was a big break in activity during that time, or if it was consistent, or if it looked very just too posh and polished in a way that you don't think, or you could see yourself being in a position that would be like that, it's important to do research on that side as well.
This is such brilliant advice that I should have had earlier in my career.
Same, but I feel like a lot of people our age kind of fell into our positions. We didn't go to college or university or graduate from, pre-secondary thinking, oh, I want to work in social media. This wasn't a career path that I ever thought of. I just fell into it.
When it comes to the meme account, so it's confessional and it means every type of confession, obviously. How has it been managing it? So just like, obviously from getting the sort of confessions that you do, what's it been like overall?
At first, I was just making them higgledy-piggledy, because I make the graphics that you see on the feed, and just making them and posting them as is. And then as we kept getting more and more, I was like, okay, we need a schedule, we need a plan. Also, I need to be tracking these. I can't just be picking and choosing.
Yeah, early on, it was a dual effort to understand how best to optimize scheduling. What are we running this month? What is our cadence per platform? And Alex was really good about being experimental with, okay, this month, let's try this frequency, or let's do a theme for this month that, gave us insights into what was working and what wasn't. And then, as Alex is an automation queen, so she was able to figure out all these streamlined ways to make this easier and less of a load. And as we've refined it, as she said, the positions have sort of evolved. She takes care of the day-to-day management of the feeds. And now going into 2022, we're looking at it from a business perspective, and I'm honored to be building that, because we're both learning so much through that.
So what does a business perspective of this account mean then?
Well, so as you can see on our website, we've made mugs and other pieces of apparel, and so what we realized is, this was a cool idea of like, oh, some swag, and then we realized there's such a demand for it that we wanted to understand how we could take it to the next level.
It's definitely about building that community around these people there, like these people who come to can like confide in you guys, see it aired out, and then other people going through that same thing. It's very much like they want to be a part of that community.
Yeah, and it's funny because we don't really call Social Media Tea a meme account. We actually call it the largest user-generated content project, because it's not like a traditional meme, but it's people feeding us the content. We have this luxury of never really running out of content because people just keep supplying it to us. So it's a living project, which is just really fun to think about. But yeah, it's really evolved in the past year and a half.
And it's cathartic for people in our positions to read, and it's also, we've heard some instances where folks will use it as a resource for leadership and trying to help them understand some of the angst that we feel or the issues we run into, because it's ever evolving and there's so much happening all the time that it's a place now where leadership can look and see, okay, what is my social media manager feeling like? What are the issues going on in their world? And those leaders who look into it under that microscope are good leaders.
Oh, God, they definitely are. I didn't realize there were sort of the decision makers and the leadership teams that were actually sort of taking a look and caring about it.
We're trying to push for that, but one day at a time, and it's all for a good effort, and we're just happy to do it.
So how many confessions do you get a week?
It varies. We get anywhere from 5 to 20 a week, depending on what's going on. If there's something larger going on in the world, we might get something bigger. Like around the holidays, we get more just because people are being made to work during holiday hours. They get interrupted on vacation time.
What has been the most eye-watering one you've ever read? Is there anyone in both your heads that were like, I will remember that one?
It wasn't a submission because this person didn't want to put it as a submission, which is fine. We tell people, please tell us when it's actually a submission, which is why we have the submissions form now. Because we get a lot of people that just want to vent. I think the one that really stuck with me was someone saying how they had a absolutely horrendous day and were really, really thinking about quitting their job because they just felt so used and abused by their superiors. And then they opened Instagram and scrolled through our feed and realized that what they experience isn't much different from what a lot of other people experience, and decided not to quit their job. When I was on the other side thinking, no, you should quit your job, honey. Like, if it's really that bad, you should quit it. But I'm glad that you still have, a steady paycheck at least.
Yeah, for me, a lot of the mental health ones that address the issues are always really good. But most recently, I saw one that goes back to the original thing we were talking about earlier, which was crisis comms. And the post was 2020 was the year where the new normal became comms and non-crisis comms. And that one just stuck out to me as like, yeah, could not have said it better myself.
For listeners, I've not actually submitted anything yet to you guys. I've not. I realize I haven't, but maybe one day. I think I've got a lot of things in the bank that happened in the past that I could have been like, if I had that account around, I would have definitely done it. But I think some of the sticky moments I've had with like working in social media has been when you're like, I think it's definitely been a thing of sort of briefs and understanding, or like that thing of like scope creep, when I've been having to sort of do more and more in a way that, especially when I was agency side, that felt just sort of draining in a way. And also somebody who's neurodivergent as well, working in social media, it plays some of our strengths, but also sometimes it's even just that bit more exhausting. That creativity helps to be creative, but like when it comes to the admin heavy stuff, you can fall down in this job because there's a lot of reporting to do, there's a lot of numbers you cannot miss. And so to keep that brain on, switch between those two brains, sometimes it just pushes you to an edge. And also, I think what I've noticed in this job is that it promotes a sense of perfectionism, and also people pleasing. And where perfectionism comes from is a fear of failure, really. And that fear of failure comes a lot in this job with not keeping up with everything. So if I don't keep up with this, then that's going to be bad, and I'm not going to be doing this job well, which pushes that sense of perfectionism. I don't know whether you found that as well as sort of a common theme.
Well, and I think with social media, the hard part is we are so public facing, and our work is out there for everyone to see. So you can see in real time what your competitors are doing, and if it's going well. I mean, we're in a group chat where we frequently wow, we would have thought that this post by this brand would have done a lot better, but it's barely getting any engagement. Whereas if you work in sales, you're not privy to your competitors' sale numbers in real time. You have to go digging for stuff like that. So it's really hard because you get leadership that sends a post that you put out 2 days ago and they're like, why did this only get so many likes? Like, okay, well, that's surface level analytics. That's not what I'm looking for here. But yeah, it's hard when everyone wants to chime in on how you're doing your job because of what they can see publicly.
It's exactly that, where somebody who doesn't understand the nuance but will measure success by a like count but not understand that that's not the goal of whatever the post was. That the issue there is pretty obvious and pretty relatable, where we all get that flack, and it's like, well, here's why it didn't work, or here's why it didn't resonate. In that leadership or wherever the message is coming from, they have to entrust the social media manager who's well versed in the brand to cater that message in the best way possible. And if there's an approval process that's bureaucratic or it takes forever, the social media feeds keep moving. So what could be relevant now won't be relevant in 6 hours. So it's important to get it out there as soon as possible and in the right way.
Top of funnel, that is a very good reminder, especially I think I've had managers pick up posts with a spelling mistake, send me screenshots with big red over things. It's like, there's a spelling mistake here. Did you mean to do that? Of course, no one means to do that. Okay, no one actually mean to spell there with the wrong I in the wrong place. Okay, so yes, no, it's that it does. It can edge into micromanagement with those things because it is so public, and micromanagement is not good in the long term. It just makes you not confident in your job that you can't do anything. Sucks.
One of the things that I've experienced too is, there's the unexpecteds. You think you're going into the day-to-day, then a crisis or something that you've not been made aware of needs to go out, and it needs to go out now, and you've got someone breathing down your neck saying get it out now, and that can be very distracting to the detail process of, is everything spelled correctly? Is it formatted right? Is there spacing where there needs to be? Is there a thumbnail in the link we're putting out? And when you have someone that's on you trying to get it out as quickly as possible, and you do that, and then they come back and say, well, why didn't it come out this way? Or what was this? It's kind of like, well, you were pushing it. You were pushing me hard to get it out there and taking away from my process because you don't understand it. And if you did, you would understand that it takes some time.
That's when I pretend the internet goes down.
See, it's definitely going to affect our engagement for 2 weeks. Yeah, definitely did that. So
someone submitted once and said, when someone reminds you that you were supposed to post that thing and you're like, oh, I did post it on Facebook, and then you retroactively date it so that it appears. I was like, that is so good. That is excellent. Those are some of my favorite submissions, when social media managers share their sneaky things. I love and adore that. I think that's hilarious.
One of the hacks that I love that you didn't hear from me, but you did, is when you're working those days where you go until 8, 9, you're going late at night, and you're sending out emails, and you think, well, maybe I can send this one tomorrow to schedule send at 7:45 and intermittently respond during times when you need that break to actually recharge and get sleep and the rest you need to perform well. That's a little secret, is to utilize schedule send when appropriate.
I bloody love schedule send. I love it. Because it's I've come up with an idea or something, or I know that all that stuff needs to be sent, but I'm not going to send it now because I don't want to deal with you responding to me right now. So we just send it tomorrow morning, then you've got it, then you can think about it. I love a good schedule send. It also makes me look fucking prompt as shit. Yeah, I'm totally awake at 8:45 in the morning. Yeah, because I'm not in bed. In REM sleep.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if you can relate to this. I have ADHD, so I'll just be finishing up for the night, and I'll be like, it's 9 p.m. I have this huge idea, and I'll spend time figuring it out. And to your point, exactly, wait, I'm not going to send this at 10 o'clock at night. I schedule send that, and it'll look like you're ready for the day. You're already coming out with the ideas. That is brilliant.
Exactly. Yes. When it comes to success on social media, what does that look like for you guys, not only in your jobs, but also with the account as well?
I think with T, we just love engaging with people. We had someone very recently anonymously kind of say, oh, do you think doing this post, it was in December when we were doing all of our posts, multiple posts a day, Do you think that's a good strategy? And I remember going on the Twitter account and sharing that someone had said that to us. I was like, we don't have a strategy. What strategy? There's no strategy for this account. I was like, we don't have any objectives here other than to elevate the voices of social media managers and people who work in digital communications and marketing. There's no strategy here. We have no long-term goal of any sort. I mean, Austin and I barely pay attention to like the money we're making through the shop. So we want to give a voice for people who are frustrated with their jobs in marketing. So we don't know what success looks like. Are people happy with the account? Do they enjoy it? Do we still get people liking our stuff? Cool, that's success for us. So with my job, success is keeping leadership happy. No, it's just making sure that students know as much as possible about the college, that we get them engaging with our content, that they know where to find our social media accounts, because a lot of times you get students saying they didn't know that we had a Twitter or something like that. So yeah, I mean, success for me is just that no one's yelled at me in the comments today. So I can't say that much about Monday because that was not the case, but today no one's yelled at me. So
Yeah, so Sip and Social Tea account, like Alex said, there is no strategy, there's no set goal. It's just to be sort of not unhinged, because that implies something a little more chaotic than what we're going for, but just ad hoc, fully embracing ad hoc nature. And in my prior role, working in higher education, my personal goal with the accounts was to make it informal, fun, having that sort of persona where you can have fun with the account. You can tweet something at it and you might get something snarky back, but you can also use it as a resource when needed and when appropriate to get the information you need about really anything that at least I had the access or knowledge to guide with. And at the end of the day, it was like, okay, we want 1 to 3 tweets a day. That was like my tentative goal. But there'd be times too where I was like, oh, I'm walking around, campus, or let's take photos. Let's just send it. Let's make a funny caption. Let's make a pun. Let's just go for it. And I feel like that sort of rubbed some people the wrong way, but then the data came back and said, wait, this is actually elevating engagement rates because it's informal. It's a place where students can come to and be entertained and informed at the same time.
I remember Austin shared a photo that a student at his university had taken, and it was beautiful, and it was Colorado in the winter, which is gorgeous. And I don't know why I had my college respond to his college and say, because they were saying like, do you name a more beautiful campus, we'll wait, or something like that. And I responded as my college, we would like to throw our hat in the ring. What's all that white stuff? Because I'm in Florida. We don't get snow. So we went back and forth for a little bit. And I was like, I wonder how many of our friends are just like, what are Austin and Alex doing right now? So, because they know it's us.
So you've touched on before, like how there are so many more jobs for social media managers and they do have like murky titles. But do you think businesses should be taking social media more seriously? Are they, do you think? And like the way that it impacts their business?
I think we're being taken more seriously than we were a few years ago. I think sadly the pandemic has helped that, just because we're the front lines of communications for businesses and brands. So they understand the power of social media and the impact that we have when it comes to engaging with your community and keeping your community informed. So I definitely feel more respected in my current organization than I did in my previous jobs, because social media wasn't really as well outlined as it was here. So my position is more robust here, has a clear objectives, I guess. So yeah, I think that it's definitely becoming better respected. Plus, social media really isn't the baby of marketing anymore. It's been around for almost 25 years at this point. So you can't keep acting like it's just an intern running your accounts.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Alex just said. And because it's been around so long, the population that grew up with it or grew up familiar with it are now elevating into those leadership positions. And as a result, they're understanding the importance that's been amplified by the pandemic. And I think that's been a big shift in the last 2-3 years that's really a good thing for the entire industry as a whole, because it does garner more respect than it has ever before.
Yeah, I mean, it helps for me that my boss used to be this position. She used to do my job, and then she got promoted and she filled the position with me. So it's helpful.
So the whole point of social media tea is that like the biggest things that, well, some of the biggest things that I see is like the work-life balance. What have you learned not only from your own jobs but from all the submissions you're getting? What is the work-life balance? Is there a perfect work-life balance achievable for social media managers? What should we put in place for ourselves?
I think helping everyone within your department kind of understand what you do and making sure that you're not the only person with the keys to the castle. I can easily go on vacation. I can schedule some things out and know that my boss or the other people on my team can effectively do my job while I'm away. So they obviously wouldn't do everything, but it's not just a void that's unfilled while I'm out. So I can go on vacation without being bothered via phone or Zoom or email, which is nice. And then my biggest thing during the beginning of the pandemic was just setting up all the automatic responses through Facebook, all the FAQ responses, all those beautiful away hour messages that really get the job done, so that I don't have to worry about someone feeling ignored. They know, okay, the social media team is away until 9 o'clock a.m. I'm not going to get an answer right now. I wish you could do the same with Twitter. That would be really nice.
Feature request right there. Yeah, the work-life balance stuff has always been an issue for those in this industry, and I think being able to draw boundaries for yourself and communicate out what it is you do, the importance of it now, especially today, and ways to help your team understand is critical. And that goes back to building a social media team, not just having a team of one. We've all heard of them. I was a team of one for 2 years, and I'd go on vacation and I would have to deal with the unexpecteds, or I would pass it off to somebody who thought they understood or could take it on, but then had all these follow-up questions. And I think, going into 2022 and beyond, it's really important not to have a social media manager, but a social media team for that redundancy.
So, what do you think are the essential skills for a good social media manager? Does a good one exist?
Yeah, I would say having range. It's not just pressing buttons. You're a copywriter, you're a photographer, you're a designer. So, and that could be a designer like me, where I am fluent in Illustrator and InDesign, Photoshop, all those things. Or you could be a designer who knows how to utilize Canva. There's no shame in that. But I think the best social media managers are creative. They are creative thinkers. They are actually creative with programs, with how they create content. I truly think that it's a creative position, which is why I love it so much, because my background is in design. So I got to use a lot of my skills in design with my position for social media. So, which is why I love social media tea as well, because I get to design, I get to write, I get to be funny, all that good stuff. So it's definitely a creative position.
Absolutely. And I feel like a lot of the creatives, there's a lot of overlap between being creative and being a self-starter. And when I was hiring out for one of my replacements in my prior job, I had interviewed around, people on the resumes looked good, and then I would ask, in person, like, oh, do you have experience on a Twitter feed or like an Instagram account? Like, tell me about that. And one of the things that really shined out to me that was a positive for candidates was when they said, yeah, I'm on Twitter all the time, I'm active, I'm learning the platform as it's occurring, and making use of it. Because there's a lot to be said about having practice on these platforms. And if you're active on them in your own spare time or doing your own creative project or side hustle, really, that's a big pro.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You have to be really creative. That creativity also has to go hand in hand with sort of like knowing how to manage different departments in and around you, because especially when you come from like a comms perspective, communications is like the nexus between whether it's like different departments in a university or different areas of the business. And as much as you're talking to like the rest of the editorial team, you're also talking to design to get them on board with like, okay, so I want to start doing a whole new campaign and I want it to look like this and we need this and this is the reasons why. And then it's sort of like that's also going on behind the background from your initial brilliant creative idea, you always have to be the one to put the processes in place to make it happen for you. And I've definitely learned that along the way, like watching how you end up managing different types of people and why, and what you should expect of them, and like putting your red lines in place. Like I think that's something you end up like learning as well.
One of the greatest skills that a social media professional can have is managing expectations. We do it every single day with almost every single request. I got one earlier and I said, great, thanks. I'm not going to use this item that you've sent to me, but I will use it to develop content. Here's why. Most of my answers are usually accessibility answers, but people normally get it. If you outline the why, it normally works like 75% of the time.
Yeah, and going back to sort of what's good for social media managers and leadership is helping them understand your role, and understanding as a social media manager the role of maybe a designer you have or someone you're working to get an image or a graphic out. It's to not expect it right away. It's to understand their process too, and to also know they have a process, and it's not ever as easy as it seems.
So, Alex, you touched on accessibility, and anyone who's listening to this who's worked in education or public sector or government roles will probably have an understanding of why accessibility is so important. I used to work at a housing association, and accessibility was really introduced to me as an idea, especially when it came to a website, because so many different types of people, you know, rented houses from the people I was working from, so they had to make things accessible. What is accessibility in social media, and how do you advocate for it?
So accessibility for me is making sure that your content can be accessed by people who have serious vision disabilities, serious hearing disabilities. They use assistive technology like screen readers or text-to-speech programs to access your content. So there are certain things that you have to do. You have to add alt text to images, you have to caption videos, you have to make sure that your copywriting is accessible. I advocate for it by talking about it nonstop. So I'm talking about it constantly. I give presentations on it. I'm writing a guidebook on it, all sorts of stuff. So I just really hammer it into the heads of my peers of we need to prioritize this, especially if you work in the public sector. If you work for the government, we have laws around web accessibility. Yeah, it's mostly websites, but you could probably still get sued for your social media content. It's not that unlikely.
Yes, I'm really glad that there's someone like you out there who's like pushing this for people, because it's just not on the forefront of their minds when they're creating content, or you know, or in the background when companies are thinking about a huge, brilliant campaign. That isn't there, and it should be.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've learned with just working with Alex over the last year has been paramount. And most recently, she walked me through sort of the things and nuance around colors and color contrast, and how does black read on white, text, and all these other different variations, and that there's like a rating scale for that. And there are all these things that I'm realizing, like, I don't know this, but wow, this makes a lot of sense. And Alex has become such a name in this. So if you want to learn things you never thought were there but are so important, you must look into her work. I'm biased, but like obviously her workbook that she's building, keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, when I asked Austin to help me manage social media tea, he was mostly doing the scheduling of Twitter. And the first thing I said, and make sure you add alt text to these posts, otherwise I'm going to be pissed. So, and I think there was only one instance, because we do like a bulk of a month at a time. I think there was only one instance where it didn't have alt text, and I just happened to notice it. But I'm like, other than that, all these posts usually have alt text and they're perfect. So I was like, you need to add alt text. My reputation is on the line here. So, but I was also kind of afraid that because we didn't come out as the people behind social media tea until almost a year ago, I was afraid if people were noticing that, I was like, people are going to pick up that it's me. There aren't a lot of accounts that do this as well as I do. So I was just waiting for someone to be like, there's alt text on this post. I know who runs this account.
I hope this book of yours comes soon. Like, I really do.
It's almost done. It needs to be peer reviewed, and then it should launch next month. So less of a book, more of a guide, because I wanted it to be easy for people to download, to print from home if they want to. And if they want a physical copy, they'll be able to buy one of those too. So, but I wanted it to be as accessible as possible for everyone.
That's exciting. I'll definitely be downloading it and sharing it with my company. So when it comes to, this is the more juicier bit, but has there any been like ever like big mistakes you've made in social, and how did you fix them? Please come up with the most funniest and lurid.
So for me, in my professional life outside of social media tea, there was an incident at my last job where the trying to think of how to phrase this without getting in trouble. I won't get in trouble, but I don't want anyone to hear it from my old job. The CEO for a school district by me had done something recently that aligned with something we were doing with the colleges that I worked with. And as the college account, I responded to the tweet and said, "Thank you, Mrs. Such and Such," being respectful. That district account came back and said, "It's Dr. Such and Such. Slap some respect on that title." And like, I understood that they were joking, and I responded to the college like, "Sorry, we're not fully awake yet. We love Dr. Such and Such," because it was an honest mistake. The communications manager, so at my old job, communications and marketing were divorced. They were separate departments. I was in marketing. The communications director saw that and was horrified and said that I needed to basically call over to that district and apologize. And when they said this, they called my personal cell phone because I was in my staff meeting for the day and I wasn't answering my office phone because I wasn't in my office. Called my personal cell phone to tell me this. And I was so embarrassed by being scolded like this, and my coworkers heard it, that I burst into tears. And my boss was irate. She was furious that this other director had done this and said, "You absolutely do not need to." I was like, they're going to keep asking me until I apologize. So they had given me the number. I'm like, I'm not calling these people for this. They're going to think I'm insane. So I did some digging around the internet, found the email for the comms director at the other district, and sent an email profusely apologizing. They came back and they're like, "Girl, why are you apologizing? We thought it was funny." I'm like, see, I'm not insane. So yeah, that was probably the worst thing that I ever did. I'm pretty good about it, but yeah, that was mortifying for me. It felt so demeaning, honestly. It was such a minor thing, and it got blown up, and then the district was like, "It's fine. We were just joking. Did someone think we weren't?" Yeah, it was horrible.
That sucks. Why would that person do that?
Yeah, it was horrible. When I left that job, my last post was a beautiful picture of Chicago with the sunset and everything. And it was, it was a Friday, so I said, "We're signing off for the weekend. We hope you have a lovely, weekend," whatever it was. And then in the alt text, I described a beautiful sunset of Chicago. Peace out, Chicago. Alex is gone. So I did that.
That's nice. That's nice and subtle. I like that. What about you, Austin?
Yeah, I think for me, I've had a couple big biffs, but I think the one I'm going to talk about is it must have been I was fresh out of college. I was in my new position at the college, so I had just graduated and immediately boomeranged back as at the engineering college, and I was still learning the ropes of social media, and a fire alarm had gone off in the building, and we had the largest building on campus at the engineering center. And so no one really knows what's going on. Students are filled. This is like 2018, so students are confused. And I'm like, oh, well, this is like a great opportunity to use social media as a way to communicate out that, hey, we're aware, there's a fire alarm going off. Go to the doors as instructed. So I tweet out alert with like a little red emoji, and I'm just like, the fire alarms are going off. We're aware. Follow follow the official account for updates as they come. And I learned through that using the word alert is a very pointed word to use in such a thing. So the administration of the university didn't really like that because then it drew attention to the local newspaper who saw it and amplified it out. And of course, it's bad PR and it drew eyes. And I understood why the choice words and even the relevance of the tweet were called into question, but it got under the skin of some, and the PIO for the police department reached out and to explain about the word usage, and I at that point was like, oh boy, this is okay, I understand. I message received, and it was never done again. But it became sort of like a joke in the office for things like, oh my gosh, like, oh, the AC stopped working. Alert, like, tweet it out. It just luckily my colleagues are understanding, but the folks at the top, they were like, okay, we want to make sure we're on the same page about this word, and I had to learn through that, and it's funny to look back on now.
Well, boo on them for not having a crisis comms my book is this large for crisis comms, but I'm in Florida where we have hurricanes, so you need a crisis comms plan if something like that happens.
This is the craziest thing is they said, per the policy, and I said, oh, okay, great, can you send over the policy? And it was policy in their head.
Oh my God. Oh, for God's sake.
And they literally never, they would say per the policy or per guidance, and I would always, even upon my departure, I'd always request for the policy. Where's the guide? Where's the documentation? And they never got around to it, and that was always one that confused me, and I think literally every other social media manager across campus. But
I think that's going back to the best advice to give social media managers: be friends with legal. Because they will save your bacon from certain situations, but also they will be the last approval for any policy that you do come up with. So if someone wants to fight you on something, be like, here's my policy that legal approve, fight me. So be friends with legal.
It's more like our final question, really. I think I'm sure you guys don't have a lot to say about this. What do you think is the future of social media as it is now? Where do you see it going? What do you see falling by the wayside? What do you see getting bigger?
I mean, I'm personally biased, and I hope that the platforms start prioritizing accessibility more. I hope that they start educating brands more, the people that actually use their platforms professionally. I would love to see that. I mean, we see that a lot more with Twitter, but I mean, social media overall is just going to keep growing. I don't really envision a world where a new platform at this point would pop up, because I feel like we're really covered at this point in time with the platforms that exist. We've obviously had platforms that have tried to come into the top tier of social media and have kind of stumbled, and it didn't work. So, I mean, even Clubhouse was super popular beginning of the pandemic, and now I never hear about Clubhouse anymore. I don't think people are really using it all that much anymore, especially because Twitter is like, hey, we have Twitter Spaces. What up? So, yeah, I think it's just going to keep growing and expanding and being utilized more and being seen as a more legitimate way of marketing to your community.
yeah, I echo that. I think it will continue to grow, and I think the media literacy among the general population is growing with it, and that's an inherently good thing because that will curb misinformation as it becomes more topical in the news, and the platforms can and should be held more accountable for understanding the tools that are embedded within the platform, how they can be misused, and more importantly, I hope that the platforms work with the social media managers, the digital strategists, to have a more open connection of understanding what the needs are of people like us, because we're so closely tied into the audience, so we can funnel through that. And I think that's where the platforms need to see the most growth. But in terms of social media as a whole, I think it's going to continue to trend up as long as people's media literacy does as well. Then I think we'll be in a good spot.
Well, finally, what is the future of social media tea at this point?
We'll add more stuff to the shop. We'll keep posting the confessions of everyone. I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. And Austin and I do have some things on the horizon that we're not ready to share publicly yet, sadly, but soon we'll be talking more. So it's only been a year since we actually revealed ourselves as the people behind Social Media Tea. So it's been a very interesting year of planning new stuff and doing bigger things than I ever imagined when I made the Instagram account. So
yeah, these accounts and this mission can't exist without the community. So we're just happy to keep growing the community and to engage at this capacity. And yeah, there really is no set strategy. We're just flying by the wayside here, going for it.
Our strategy is one of our mugs. And if anyone wants to know what mug that is, go look at the Dandelion mug. I think that's, yeah, Dandelion mug. That's our strategy. That's the one. It's sad how I have all of the names of our products memorized at this point.
Amazing. Great. So last thing is our quick fire round.
Okay.
What was the first social media site you signed up to?
MySpace.
Facebook.
If you could get rid of one social media site with a click of your fingers, what would it be?
Facebook.
Instagram.
Will you ever join the metaverse?
No.
Fuck no.
If you could run any brand social media account, which one would it be?
I would run the Twitter account.
God, that's what I was gonna say. Damn. Twitter account. I'm not gonna back out of that answer. That was what I was gonna say, and I'm sticking to it.
Who is the one person do you think that should just stop tweeting forever?
Elon Musk.
You know who you are.
Thank you so much to Social Media Tea, Alex and Austin, for joining me today. Where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter at #HeyAlexa. You actually have to write out hashtag in my handle. And I'm also online at therealalexa.com. Yes, that is me throwing shade at the company that stole my name.
And you can find me on Twitter at Austin on social.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I have learned a lot. I have related a lot. And I thank every day that Social Media Tea exists as a social media manager.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
In 3 words, I would say one-stop shop. My name's Ben Meakin. I work for an agency called Fluid Ideas in Derby in the Midlands. I'm the head of search and social. There's about 50 people in the agency in total, about 8 people in the search and social team, covering all manner of digital. But obviously, the social team work day in, day out with Agorapulse. In terms of clients, we've got a really broad mix as an agency, so everything from luxury retirement villages through to e-commerce clients and national train providers, so a complete mix on social. We've been using Agorapulse for just over 2 years now, I think. It feels like forever. So yeah, in terms of problems that we were originally having with managing social media for our clients, as a team we grew quite rapidly, and the platform we were on originally just kind of stopped having the functionality, or didn't have the functionality we needed. So we were looking for something that was very much a one-stop shop where we could manage all of our publishing, manage our community engagement, our listening efforts, and do that within a kind of a price structure that worked well for us as an agency, which is kind of what led us to Agorapulse, in that it very much became a kind of a one-stop shop for us for social media management, and added other stuff that we didn't know we really needed at the time. So the kind of breadth of reporting that the platform offers, as well as the shared calendar function, which has become really useful for us, and especially the way that we manage our clients' social media. So yeah, in terms of, I guess, finding Agorapulse and what really drew us to the platform, cost was very much a factor, but cost in the sense of being able to do everything under one platform, and trying to lose other platforms that we were using for different things. So very much the shared calendar function, we were using kind of separate content calendars on spreadsheet platforms, and then we were having to send those to clients and then get it back from clients and then upload the content in terms of scheduling it, whereas the shared platform takes all of that away, and the same with things like reporting. It kind of brings everything under one roof, but does it in a way that the price really works for us and the platform's solid as well. So yeah, in terms of some of the specific problems we were facing before we moved to Agora Pulse, there was one in particular which is a bit of a bugbear of mine, in that we weren't able to post native videos to LinkedIn on our previous platform, which seems like a really small thing, but obviously when you're trying to offer a full service kind of social offering to clients, there's nothing worse than having to pop onto a platform and do something outside of your social media management tool. But apart from that, we were using all these different platforms for things like reporting and content approval processes. Reporting specifically, we used to go the full mile as kind of a creative agency and design these admittedly beautiful design reports in PDF format, but we found that we were spending more time designing the reports than we were actually showcasing all the great results to clients, and that's the real stuff that matters. And the kind of automated reporting function through Agora Pulse has really helped that. And the same with shared calendars, in terms of just being able to schedule our content in one place, send a quick, easy link to a client, no matter how tech savvy they are or not. They open it up, approve or reject the content, and the process is completely seamless, rather than having spreadsheets and all manner of things everywhere trying to manage. The features of the platform that we use the most is very much the kind of content calendar and the scheduling. Most of the team use the calendar function the most, but we use the list function quite a lot as well, just in terms of internal approval process. And it's very much that, and then the reporting. So we, as a team, we try to hop into the reports as often as possible, mainly just looking at the kind of top content in the content reports and seeing what's performed in the past 1 or 2 weeks, which is kind of our reporting cycle for clients, and then using that information to very much double down on the creative that's done really well and rinse and repeat. So yeah, very much spend a lot of time in the content scheduling and reporting section of the platform. For any other agencies out there that are looking for a social media management platform, I think having everything in one place is very much the key for Agora Pulse. And I know when I'm speaking to other social media managers and those who work in agencies, online and Facebook groups and stuff, this question that always comes up in terms of which social media management platform to use, and it always boils down to, I need to do this thing on these 3 platforms, and I also need to report, and I also need to do listening. And what drew us to Agora Pulse was very much that the platform does all of that and more. So from an agency perspective, and being able to manage that easily for multiple clients, to the extent that we've probably got 70 plus profiles on the platform now, and it's easy to manage, Agora Pulse is very much the place to do that.